Who's that?
Jonathan Spencer, he's an architect.
Okay.
He's got big plans.
Well, if he doesn't come, we can talk about it.
Yeah, we can.
All right, so we do have a quorum, so we will call the meeting to order. So did you get a chance? You just got back? Did you get a chance to check the minutes?
I looked at the minutes, yes,
Okay.
I don't have any
Any,
problem with them.
any comments, questions? Do I hear a motion to accept them?
I so move.
I'll second it.
Okay, I vote yes.
And a roll call.
Oh, I have to do it.
Oh, you're not allowed to vote?
Okay, so Susan?
Yes.
Tom,
Yes,
Jenny,
Yes.
whether you can vote or not. I'll
Yes.
let you vote. I vote yes. All right.
I like the fact that he just lets me be included.
Melissa's my biggest fan.
Yes.
So moved, then it is approved. As I said, it's a light agenda. I did go to a meeting last Friday for the Main Islands Coalition. Well, the way they handled it was they had three separate meetings. Casco Bay went to one, Midcoast, and then Down East did theirs. And was an interesting meeting. We had two legislative reps, Valley Geiger is the name, and Mike Ray. And then representatives from Angus King's office and Jared Goldman's office. So and you might imagine a lot of the discussion had to do with the ferry. And a lot of those bills are either being set up in committee or are already in committee. I think the biggest piece of news that came out of it, and this occurred, it was Friday, and the legislature voted their budget on Thursday. And then for procedural reasons, because they didn't have the 60%, they they adjourned a formal adjournment so the clock could start on the 60-day budget or the 90-day budget, whatever it was. And then they were called back in. But part of what happened on Thursday was a new bill was put in, which effectively, if approved, would delay the homeboarding of the ferries for 10 years.
wow,
It still has to, go through vote and all that kind of stuff, but that was of all the ones they talked about, that was one I had never heard before. So, and I spoke with Shay and she hadn't heard of it up until I said something. So I sure hope I passed on the right information. So,
so that means that the ferry would be here
right,
overnight for the next 10 years.
10 minimum, yeah. Now, there are other bills that would,
Right,
solidify it being on the island. The other piece of that was interesting is both DOT and Main State Ferry said they would not object to it because, as they put it, they had no answer to the emergency services issue.
well, good, finally started that.
So we'll see. Again, and hopefully it gets through committee and into a voting. Housing was talked about, and frankly, nobody has any answers to housing. The only one that was moving forward, North Haven, is going more into a IAP type fundraising and everything, but relative to just doing workforce housing, no answers from anybody, and everybody has the same problem. It's a lack of money, it's the high cost of building, and so that didn't provide a whole heck of a lot of information for us. There was a follow-on meeting. Island Institute is going through a fairly, I guess, tumultuous set of changes. Like, I know they've changed their whole process of what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And people who I've been talking to over the last 6 months are no longer with Island Institute, so. Even, the one who took Alex's spot, Kate,
Is she already gone?
her last day was Friday. She was at that meeting that I was at, and then she was leaving. I went to another, housing committee meeting that had to do with that, and, forget her name. Brianna of some, and she was supposed to follow up with me on something, and I got a message from her, said, sorry, I'm leaving as of last Friday also, so I don't know what's going on, but they're
Yeah.
doing a lot of changes.
I knew that they were having a big. Alex had kind of. After he got settled, they got settled in at Hancock. It was, they had made mention of, no, there was weird writing on the wall.
Mhm.
And now apparently it seems like it's kind of hit.
It's,
And, but two of my contacts for just regular. Hey. Read this and proofread it for me. It got kicked back to me and it was like, ooh. Okay,
So-
weird.
yeah, the 3 regional meetings, if you would, that were done. We're gonna, be followed by a virtual meeting this past Monday. I tried for a half an hour to log in and was totally unsuccessful, and finally got a hold of somebody who said, well, yeah, they inactivated that link. And then they sent out a new link, which I never got. Janice Petzel was also part of the group. She never got it.
Right.
And it turned out there were only 4 non-Island Institute people who showed up for the virtual meeting. So
They wouldn't let anybody in.
yeah, well, nobody knew it was there.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
so anyway, I mean, there, from a housing perspective, I learned what I've learned over all of the meetings, which is that nobody has answers and everybody has the same sets of issues. And they're all facing the same issue that we keep talking about, which is, not the low income. Almost every island, except for some of the really small ones, have, some plan for low income. Although I've heard a lot of negative things about what's going on in Maine housing. They're not, their money isn't as loose as it once was, if it
Right.
was ever loose, right? But, and they're saying if you're on Maine housing, if they have any money, if you're not ready to put a shovel in the ground, they're not gonna give you the money.
I did get that message that said that, because I'm signed up for the grant notifications through Genesis and Housing.
Mhm.
And it was that everything has had the temporary hold. And that they weren't foreseeing when it was going to be released.
Right, so, and then, the next step up, which is what we have all kind of been focused on, and is the area where everybody's having an issue, so. No help from that. So I'm just trying to think of if there was anything else that. No,
The last time that I talked to Alex, the only thing that he said was that Hancock is now seeing a harder time with the money freezes. A bunch of contractors that they initially had that was going to, that they had kind of the handshake loose agreement with
Mhm.
of, we're gonna get this money if you guys are gonna do this. And they didn't get the contract solidified. And now 3 of the 10 of the contractors that they have all pulled out. And the other ones are super hesitant about signing any contracts because they don't want to put their name to something that they can't get paid for. Even though Hancock has the cash in hand. But now he was thinking that they were gonna try to do a different incentive of how about we pay this much in advance? To help get the contractors going, but they were having a hard time with it because of the bylaws that they have.
Mhm.
Like Islesboro can't pay for anything until it is done. And so now Hancock's trying to figure out how they can kind of supersede that and start paying for things before it's completed off of we're not just gonna take the money and run basis.
Mm.
And, but they're having a very hard time getting that to pass through their commission.
Yeah.
Now I can see both sides to it, I really can.
Yeah. So as I'm looking at my note, the only other thing of some interest that was discussed, and then it was kind of pushed to Island Institute was multi-jurisdictional bond measure. So, so like you could get Islesboro, Final Haven, North Haven would get together and have some kind of unified bond issue. There are so many questions
Right.
on that it does need somebody. An Island Institute said they take a look at it. You know, it's certainly doable, but how you disperse that kind of money would be a fairly major.
Right.
Like in my, at least that's what I see.
Yeah,
I did mention the housing committee in my ISC chair report for the annual meeting for the annual town report. And said that our economy here is doing very well. Both stores are busy, contractors are busy. But the perennial problem is housing, workforce housing, and that the housing committee and IAP are addressing this problem as they can. And ISC is still standing by, hoping to help financially. If there was a local contractor who wanted to do building, we would have some startup money at low interest rate for them.
Well, if we've done with Main Island, that's a great segue to.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just share what, the person I've been talking to is. He has been working on Islesboro as an architect. He's a very talented architect. His name's Madison Spencer. And he's interested in buildings like 6-bedroom dorms. And in our conversation, his biggest thing is, I don't want to be voted off the island. And I said, well, that's very good. It would be a shame for you to, spend a lot of money or get a lot of plans together and then everybody vote you down and, feel like you're not welcome here. So that's when I said, why don't you come to this meeting and bounce your ideas off of people and have that conversation so that you can feel confident that what you're doing will be welcomed on the island and the island will understand what you're doing. So it's not just somebody off doing something wild and crazy, spending lots of money and then everybody firebombing his house.
right.
Communication is important.
And sometimes the island can vote one way or the other in their own ways. So that's why I did invite him here. I guess he is not texting me back, but perhaps having these conversations and even with the Economical Sustainable Committee and seeing what, if there is some sort of merging that can happen. He's got the passion and drive, as far as I can tell, to do something. Whether what he wants to do is the best fit, I think he's willing to hear what is the best fit. What do we want? What do we think could work? Because as an architect working out here, he is finding, where do I put my crew? Where do I find people to put here? If they have to go back to the mainland, my day is cut short, which is, that's a reality, right? Everybody's spending a lot longer traveling and it's exhausting. And, we see that, we pay for people to come back and forth on the ferry. Not just our crew, but, electricians, everybody else.
See a property that he is specifically.
He's
thinking
looking
about
at
developing?
he's looking at a few right now. And I know he's in touch with Dave Dyer about, it's like, you need to make sure that everything's gonna work for what your plans are. Before you take the leap.
He's talking about specific pieces.
About specific properties, yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So is he only talking about dorms for workers who are here several months in a row type situation? Is this?
So right now, yes, which I think you have a good point, like is that all, is that what we need? I think we need both. I think we need people that want to be here full time, as well as part-time people. But that's why I thought it'd be good for him to come and talk to us and see what does the island need, He knows what he thinks the island needs, but come chat with us.
Oh,
Well,
on IAP, there's been talk about the need for one-bedroom apartments, two-bedroom apartments, studio apartments, and not just the larger, because there will be, if everything goes properly by the summer, there will be two, three-bedroom places in Ruthie James, an extension of that. And then there are plans for a total of four, well, it's two different duplexes that have two houses in each. And but again, those are two or three bedroom. So I think there's some movement with IIP again to have actual houses be available. But it
Susan,
doesn't.
would that be above the low income level?
Well, it was main grant is a lot of the money to build the two, three-bedroom so-called cottages, extension of Ruthie James area. Those are for you cannot earn more than 120% of the median income in Waldo County, according to the data that comes out of HUD every year. And the application is done now, so people are, and also, finding out who is going to be applying. And my perspective is those rents should be as low as possible so those are not for high income, but the rents can't be as low probably as the ones that currently exist still in Ruthie James. But then the housing, I don't fully understand this. Because I came in, I've only been to one board meeting and one call meeting. But supposedly it's workforce housing, not income limited for folks, for example, like, higher paid people working on the ferry or plumbers or electricians, builders potentially, and not clear what those rents will be, but none of them can be really high income. I mean, they shouldn't be high income.
So at the 20% level, you're talking about an income of no higher than like 60, maybe 62,000.
Realistically, yeah, I think that would be the tops for the two houses that are, will be built by the end, by sometime this summer. Thus they're modular, so those will be done sooner. So, because it's through Islesboro Affordable Property, I mean, they cannot charge rents certainly that are market value, but market value is still so high that most working people can't pay those anyway. Uh, so that's the two duplexes are, that's out a bit. That the earliest they would be built would be the end of this year. The two three bedrooms, I think they'll be, hopefully be inhabited by regular working people here or people who want to come here. But we have talked at IIP also about, you know, can we get more housing for people working on the ferry or more housing for all different kinds of people who want to move here, particularly starting families. So, but there's some new fundraising going on evidently that's bringing in good money. I mean, that's not at all in my area at all, but it's good that that's happening. So I don't know. I'm not quite sure what will happen.
So has the construction begun on those two, three-bedroom houses?
I think the site work has been being done. And I mean, these estimates of when things will be done, who knows whether that actually is the reality of how it will get done with building here or building anywhere. But it's supposedly, I mean, it's all a go. All the money came in it's probably the last grant we'll get for a while because all the money's drying up nationwide. But who knows? We'll see.
Good.
Good. Well, that's good news anyway.
That's encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is encouraging. And hopefully, in a little bit have better information about this. But the goal right now is to have very, very, very moderate low income. the real people, so to speak. So,
But then back to this fellow that you've been talking to, is his vision, I guess I'll call it, that he would buy and create this housing,
Mhm.
and then he would rent as, you know, need comes up.
Mhm.
Did he talk about what he would do and kind of like an off season, although if you look at what comes over every day, I'm not sure there is an off season.
Yeah, I didn't say what are you gonna do when it's empty.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I don't think it would be empty.
Well, and he's not, I think he's thinking. I mean, why don't I just go up right now? He did send me the plans. I don't misquote this.
Cause I could see it being like a Monday through Friday housing. Cause a lot of the people that would come over and stay are gonna wanna go home to their families and different things. But then even to have them on the island for the 5 days
Mhm.
would still be beneficial.
Mhm.
mm,
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So I guess as you look that up, I don't know, what do people think that the reception would be?
Is this for his own crew?
Yes,
Is he keeping him here for the next 10 years?
I don't know,
Can he
Mike.
eat with other people?
Yeah, well, that's a good question.
Cause that's
That would
good.
be an important fact, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, is it, is it for everybody or is it just for him?
For him,
Right.
right.
I think that's a fair
I
question.
mean, there would certainly be some community support if something were available for the community.
yes,
But if it's just for a private enterprise,
It's kind of like Tarantino got a little bit of whiplash when they started buying houses for the people that they're bringing up.
This looks, so it looks like eight beds on the first floor. And 8 beds on the second floor with then communal bathrooms.
kitchen, I mean, is it like a shared kitchen? Or is it just,
I don't see any kitchen, but there's a room, there's a part that there's no. Oh yeah, there's a kid, yeah, there's like 2 sinks, 2 fridges, 2 long tables on the first floor.
Like going back to college.
It is like going back to college. It's a dorm,
Which
like,
I went fire station.
it's a hostel, like it's not,
mm,
so I mean, I feel like this is. Yeah, that's why I said, why don't you come talk to
Yeah.
us and see what we think the island really needs,
Is this handicap accessible or whatever that?
these are
And,
pretty pictures right now, they're not
Oh,
very detailed.
Huge septic system? Go
Yeah.
for that.
I guess he's covering that kind of stuff like septic.
Well, that's why I said,
all that with
you need to
Dave.
talk to Dave Dyer and
Okay.
make sure that, you understand what is necessary from an architectural standpoint and everything else. But yeah, I mean, I think there's somebody who's interested in doing something. He wants to do something because it will force him to be here, which is what his long-term goal is, is to become a resident of the island. So, if you don't have a project, nothing's really forcing you to take that next step. My feedback to him was if it's done tastefully and done correctly, then I think the island would like it. But I think you should come and talk to us, I think, people have brought up tiny houses might be a better solution. Than a dormitory. I mean, there's times in my life I'd want to spend time in a dormitory and times I don't.
Well, especially if it's gonna be any kind of year-round solution, because. And I might be looking at it from a very askewed, tainted view. But if it's for workers that are coming over and it's a dormitory style living, then it would be. So temporary
Mhm.
that there's no ownership to it.
Mhm.
And then would we end up with the same problems that the ferry crew was allegedly having at their unsupervised house?
And I said that to him as well. I said, it needs to be managed, and he
And
said that
since-
he had people to manage it, and I said, it needs to be handled.
Yeah.
Like, it can't just be left free
Right,
for all. Somebody has to be taking rents or whatever, like, and it has to be clean, and it can't be.
Yeah.
We can't be worried that it's now a safety issue on the island.
right.
Yeah.
And I think that with the very loud vocalization of what had occurred at the ferry. That's gonna be the first thing that, oh, great, now we're gonna have a whole bunch of, I love you, and this isn't stereotypical in any way, shape, or form, but we're gonna have a whole lot of drunken carpenters that are just gonna fuck around. Okay,
I mean, drunken sailors are
What
one
do you
thing.
Yeah, well, we
you
expect.
don't drink in your house either. I can't tell if you're sneezing or laughing. I really hope you're laughing, Susan.
I
Yeah.
am.
But like, I'm not, I live in the blue collar life of it, and 20 years ago, yes, sign me up for that. But now if I'm wanting to do anything kind of long term, even if it is on a temporary basis, I would think that almost a tiny home, mobile home park, where everybody had their own space that they were responsible for, that you could get away from. I wouldn't want you to have to live with Randy every single night. Yeah.
Before we start talking about mass living areas,
Mhm.
can we talk dirty for a minute? Can we
No.
talk about septics, town sewers? You know, we want town centers where everybody can build in a big spot.
Right.
Great, lovely. Now, where is all this crap going?
Right.
Nobody wants to talk about the dirty things. Islesboro has its own aquifer. We're very lucky. If we lose that aquifer, guess what? One of you guys is gonna have to give up your property to put in a desalination plant.
Mhm.
Somebody's gonna have to give up their property to put in a waste treatment center. Nobody wants that.
Okay.
But guess what? We have to start thinking about that.
Mm.
You know? The town's giving up all this property. They have plenty of opportunities to buy all these big pieces of property to do things on, and they won't. But people have to look, this is huge. Because half the water on the is going to hell now. There's a lot of places in the summer cottages that have like 4 or 5 wells that they can't use. Because the water's so bad. And like Jay and all the plumbers, when they plumb up a new house, they just go full Monty treatment centers for the water because it's so bad. So, you know, I remember years ago when everybody was, you know, bee happy, you know, everybody wanted a hive of bees. And it's like, well, you got the bees, you know, that keeps everything fertilized. But you know what? If you start bringing in fertilizers and things to keep your flowers, it kills everything. We don't have any honeybees anymore.
Mhm.
It's because everybody fertilizes everything, you know, but you look at Nantucket, you know, those guys have a task force on fertilizer. There's people that go around and test your gardens and stuff. To try to keep everything alive, because everything's just dying out there. But we have to think of that here, you know, it's like, we really need to figure out a big, you know, better way of doing this.
Yeah,
So-
I agree, the idea about adequate septic systems
Yeah.
or the town centers overtly state that if you don't have enough room to have enough setback between your wellhead and your septic system, then you have to have a pre-treatment plant. And those are actually pretty inexpensive these days. You can put in a pre-treatment system that will reduce the size of your leaching field by 75% or something.
Right,
Those things are possible. But yeah, this idea that Jenny, your fellow's talking about, sounds like it could only happen in a town center.
What I think, I mean, if it's one big building, yeah, if you've got all those bedrooms, you're gonna need a big system.
Mhm.
I don't know that it can only happen in a town center. I think you would need some space for it to happen. I don't know that it could happen in a town center.
Yeah, I don't know, you know, the definitions of dwelling and I don't know how all that plays out, a rooming house like that. I don't really know.
Yeah.
He's zooming.
Is he zooming? Yeah, he's zooming in. I mean, here we go. You can answer the questions. The heat's off.
Hi, Madison. Or Mr. Spencer.
I think my audio is on, yes.
Hello.
Hold on. There, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, beautiful. I can't believe I'm even being included in this. I thought it was an innocent bystander.
Those are the ones that usually get hit with the rocks.
Well, we've just been talking about, just throwing around what you and Ginny have discussed, so maybe you could kind of outline for us what your vision on this is, and then we can talk a little bit further.
I'll be brief, and I'm speaking without any authority whatsoever. This is all predicated upon observations I've made over the past year and a half, 2 years. I've been knocking around your beautiful island. One of the things I was, one of the, a couple of things I was made aware of, and that we've been affected by ourselves. As Jenny may have mentioned, I'm an architect. We're involved in a little bit of work there on the island now. And I myself have spent a lot of time going back and forth on that ferry. And I see these guys and gals lined up at the crack of dawn. Some don't make the ferry, some do. And it's the same beginning of the day and at the end of the day, especially during the summer. And as I've spoken to some of the gangs, the crews we operate with, they all have expressed interest in just having a place to, on occasion, maybe a couple of nights a week, sleep. Have a bed to lay their head on. And we had the good luck with one of our clients. We were able to pick up an older house and house them, but it's only been on a temporary basis. And I sense that this could be of use for us in the future and maybe for others. I had heard the same regarding some difficulty at the Tarentine, finding space for the young crews that come on board for the summer for housing, what have you. And it made me think back to a gazillion years ago when I was a student and first moved to New York and lived at the Y, and which was not unlike a dormitory. And I thought if this were reasonably well done, it could serve everybody in a useful fashion. So I did a little bit of research and came across an amazing history of these structures that were built in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, some in Maine, during the heyday of the mill period. So late 1800s through the early 1900s. And in looking at some of these historic examples, some of which were really just not much bigger than rooming houses, it led me to believe there was something that could be devised that takes as a precedent those historic architectural characteristics so prevalent in that part of Maine, such that these could fit in seamlessly within the architecture of the island. And so that was the starting point. I did a couple of sketches that our gang we drew them up just to test them, see how they felt. We did a version. We took one and developed a parking scheme for it just to get a sense for the amount of space required and how we might fit it so that it feels snug and appropriate for that zone there by, let's say, Island Market or somewhere in that zone by Billy Warren's store and office. And that was it. I've had my contractors take a look at it. We're looking at pricing, trying to figure out how best to build it. But before I went any further, having met Jenny and having been impressed with her background and having known some of her history in Rhode Island, it seems smart to me to go no further and put this out in the public realm so that people such as yourselves who are involved in considerations regarding these matters could have a look and tell me, am I barking up the wrong tree? Is it a foolish endeavor? Has it been considered and rejected as inappropriate? Or is there a way that this may prove useful, but here's an improvement or two or three? So I don't, that's probably the short and quick explanation as to what I've been doing. And I'm blessed with the fact that I've got the wherewithal and the time, the crew, the staff that can do this thing on the fly. What you're seeing is a result of perhaps 2 weeks worth of work by a couple of people in my office. So we just kicked this out just to test it.
Here's my perspective, Madison, that we all acknowledge that we have a huge housing problem here on Islesboro, in several different categories. One being the one that you're speaking of about temporary housing for workers. Another concern that's really the focus for this committee is actual dwellings for year-round families. Though I understand that a temporary worker that showed interest in living on Islesboro would like to live out here somehow inexpensively for a little while to see if that was a reasonable goal to bring his family or her family out here. So there's multiple pieces to this, and this committee is really committed to working on housing for year-round residents. So though we would certainly be interested in whatever you want to do for temporary workers, that would be sort of as an adjunct to what we're doing here. Got
it. Would it be useful? Yeah, I didn't realize I was not on the screen. Would it? I may have included in one of the packets I forwarded to Jenny, one of our small house designs, and we've got some others. There's a cache of drawings, the records on this fellow, this Portland architect, John Calvin Stevens, who did so much good work up and down that coast of yours. And did I just lose the camera here?
No, you're good.
You're okay.
And he has some examples of houses, double houses. I hesitate to. Essentially, they're townhouses, but literally double houses in order to make them more efficient, as well as other ideas. We've got those. I'm happy to share those with you. And when you speak of these houses, would these be for purchase, or would they be for rent? How do you see that working out best?
It's so expensive to own a house here, land, site prep, build a house for a working class person. That's prohibitive. So the Islesboro Island, the affordable housing project, started out with home ownership sort of as the ideal, but they have mostly in the last decade really focused on rental properties. And I think that's probably, Susan could tell us more clearly, that's probably what they will be focusing on in the future is affordable housing units. Is that right, Susan?
Yes, in the near future, that's the goal is, I mean, yes, it would be for rent. Rentals, ideally, if the rents are low enough, then a working family here year round can save up enough money, but the property, I mean, the real estate prices here are through the roof. And so even a very modest little old farmhouse can go for an arm and a leg. So for now, it would be for rentals. I mean, ideally, I think would be little home ownership, but it really needs to be subsidized either by government grants, nonprofit, other sources of money, and then the fundraising here. And I know for Islesboro Affordable Property, the newest building that's going down the pike it is mainly all from donors, so it's tapping the wealthy summer residents here. So, I mean, renting is, if someone has a place that can rent for a modest price, and raise their family here and live here, then that's the second best, but that's more realistic, I think, in the near future, at least with their property, how difficult it is and how expensive it is to build here.
So Madison, just to give you an idea of where we are on the island. We have, and you've been talking to Ginny, so you've probably seen some of this, but we have less than 5 houses on the island that are for sale for under $500,000. And so, and to build a house, and even Islesboro Affordable Properties has found this, it's, you're looking at almost 500,000 to put a 2 or 3 bedroom house up.
Modest.
So, I mean, that's one of the reasons that we went into trying to do, enlarge the number of town centers so that we could hopefully, we could get higher density and lower land cost. But, it's expensive, no matter how you go about it. So, when you think about the cost of a new build, or even if you do one, where you've refurbed an existing home, rent is probably the most, the easiest to get back on the market, and to get somebody in the house. But for where we are really focused and where you're focused, which is really the trades, for us, it's also school teachers, that the monthly rental number is going to be a big issue. And Ginny can probably talk to that better than any of us relative to where's market and what do we think we need to have available, in terms of a price. So I do think rent is probably the most reasonable way to look at it, versus building something to sell, because what's the average time on the market these days?
The average time?
Yeah,
That's not a fair question for Islesboro.
no, it's not. Yeah, I
The
mean,
graphs look ridiculous.
Yes. it takes I mean, and because of the price, you're looking for somebody who has, frankly, that has the cash. And that's one of the biggest issues that is going on in the state right now, which is that so much of the inventory is being sold to people who are buying for cash, which
Right.
drives out the kinds of folks, it drives out of the market, the kinds of folks that we would like to see have homes.
Let me-
Another,
Go ahead.
another aspect, Madison, that you should be aware of is that housing for Tarantine workers or for temporary workers, in the past has sometimes meant that the fixer-upper has been bought and then only used seasonally, and then that house is no longer in the market for year-round housing. And there's been quite a bit of local sentiment that's a problem, and locals really want to see the housing inventory expanded for people who live here, and only secondarily for those who are coming temporarily.
Got it.
I'll add on to that, I do know that some of the Terra Team properties, if they found a teacher or somebody who could be in there the rest of the year, they would absolutely rent it. So I know that,
But like a 10-month rental.
right,
Okay.
they need it from the 15th of June to September 15th or something like that, so.
And school's not out until the end of June. The teachers' contracts are extended and they have to report in August.
Okay, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that was one of the
I'll find
things
out.
that it came through.
One of these
of-
days.
If I could ask a quick question or two. It seems if you had to paint a picture, if you had to describe for me what the demographic would be for the number of teachers that are looking for housing, do they tend to be single, or is it a husband, wife, or partner deal? Are they typically childless? Are we talking about something that could be literally a 1-bedroom cottage per se? And I do appreciate one of the things and again, I am a newcomer. I'm as green as green can be, but I have been told that your school is so highly regarded that people come off island to attend it.
That is
And-
accurate.
And that to me seems like such a huge plus for the community that you could have in place a school that's already good, but could it even be better if we somehow develop a better housing strategy for these teachers, your faculty, so that they are there not just for the school year, but there so they can also do a summer school or summer classes if they have anything like that. So I'm intrigued by that. But a lot of the real question for me is, how small can we make this? How charming could we make it such that it is seen as a positive for the community and it serves that world of teachers best?
Someone please correct me, but in my experience, I'm a retired teacher from the school. And in my tenure there, we were all, our tenures were 20 years plus for almost the entire cadre of teachers there. And we were all, had families. Now, that's not exclusively the case now.
It is.
It
It
still
still
is.
is.
I'm literally running through the
Good.
list of
I
them.
was kind of waiting for you to.
We, there is one island-based teacher right now that does not have children. And then we have 3 that commute from the mainland that do not have children, and that's out of 17 employees. The other call it 12, all have elementary to middle school children.
Got it.
So that's been predominantly the norm.
But it is my understanding, and no one is allowed to repeat this, and so Susan, close your ears. No, I'm joking. There is potentially going to be 3 new teachers that will need to be hired this year. The problem is that there is absolutely 0 place
Right.
for these teachers to go. And those teachers will likely come, with a significant other and probably with something small, like children wise,
So
or
So-
a puppy.
to answer your question, I think
It would need to be a 2-bedroom.
you're
at
you're
minimum
looking at 2
for
or
them to
3
be
bedroom
interested.
Got
homes.
Okay.
And that's the housing stock we don't have.
Right.
No, I mean, I know of one teacher living in a 3-bedroom home by himself, but there is a mix of it. Yeah,
And he has the same summer problem.
he has to be out in the summer.
Yep.
Right.
And I think the hypothetically speaking, this might. They're probably gonna continue it, cause I think that the significant other wants to be on the island more. But I know before he was saying that no, he was done doing it.
Than being here.
Because he's having a harder time now finding anybody that can take all of his stuff. For the summer,
Mhm.
even if he can move in with
Somebody
friends,
else. Gotcha.
you know, or. One year he was lucky enough that he got on with a full-time crew out here and was able to live at their house. But he still has to pay now the storage and everything for all of his
For
things.
stuff, yeah.
Gotcha.
And we're very lucky that he does have that house, cause then if we have emergencies where the ferry doesn't run, he's, as long
Yeah.
as he's friends with the teachers, which he's friends with all of them. We have a spot that they can go as an emergency placement. But even that's getting fewer and far between, because if you have the 5 people that are coming over that now can't get home. In a 3-bedroom, it hurts,
Yeah.
and so.
So, in addition to teachers, what we'd like to be able to attract, are tradespeople. So, today, we have one on-island plumber and one island electrician. I think we're down to that one. And he's so tied up that you can't get him, and so, so what we'd like to be in a position that we can attract tradespeople. So that we could, cause a lot of our tradespeople are literally tied up in some of these major projects that are going on, that are being built. And, the good news is if you have an emergency, the folks that are here will respond to the emergency, but I'll just give you one. I'm trying to put a new water heater in. And and it's not an emergency, and I might be lucky to get it by next winter. Only because I'm competing against the other projects that they have. But, again, if the water heater broke, I know I could get somebody to come out pretty quickly, but, that's the balancing act that they have to play.
And tradespeople are paid well here, and as a tradesperson, you can make between $50,000 and $100,000 a year. But that still doesn't give you enough resources to be in the housing market as it stands.
Got it. Is there, when I was researching this, I actually spoke with a banking operation in Camden. We were strategizing over what kind of funding we could rely on, and could we establish a nonprofit that would be the umbrella organization for doing this? It would fit within a world of SBA 7A loans. I was made aware of a main entity that's interested on coastal matters of this sort, and I've heard there are other organizations. Can you as a group perhaps offer me some advice as to who else I should be talking to? Designing this stuff is the easiest thing before us in terms of accomplishing this. We could design a little village of 2-bedroom, some 3-bedroom cottages, snug as a bug, that would be. And I've seen examples of small cottages on your island that look as if they had been done in that fashion. You have some good models for how this can be achieved, I think. And Dave Dyer seems amenable to adjusting the rules accordingly in terms of how we could establish density. Are you able as a group to perhaps offer me some sidebar guidance in terms of how to go about doing this, and so that I could potentially try to put together a team that does this?
May I speak with another hat on from this? I'm chair of the Osborne Economic Sustainability Corporation, which is a quasi-municipal organization. We have resources of about $1.5 million. We have $350,000 loaned to local entrepreneurs presently. Our whole purpose in life is to promote the local year-round economy. We are not overtly in the housing industry, but we would like to promote local builders to do just that. So we offer loans to entrepreneurs at 2% interest, 5-year term. And the intent is to give them a leg up on some project, create another job or two. And our loans range from $5,000 to $50,000. And that's not much when we're talking about a house, but it could be useful to a builder for some upfront funding to get going. And we and others have talked about the newly established Up Island Town Center around Durkee Store. Durkee Store is for sale, and it includes 17 acres. Much of it is buildable. And there have been many people talk about the possibility of maybe separating the store business and its apartment from the other acreage and building a little village, just as you mentioned earlier. The owner of Durkee Store presently doesn't want to separate the store and the apartment from the other acreage, but that's still up in the air. But that is been the focal point of much discussion over the last few years, that particular piece of property. And Jenny could tell you more about that too.
He's still on there. He's not gonna split.
I mean, I haven't asked him lately if he's gonna split, but if you've met Richard.
Yes, no, yes.
Bonnie told me no, because they're worried that if they get the acreage, then nobody's
Then
gonna
nobody's
gonna buy the
buy the
store,
house.
yeah.
I mean, you know, he wants,
And it's valid.
yeah, it's a
Right.
valid concern.
Yeah,
He
I
wants
mean-
it all gone
Right.
and he wants to leave. He doesn't want to sell the store and then have the acreage left lingering, like he
Right.
wants to cut ties. I mean,
So-
In a good way,
with
yeah.
property.
Yes,
He wants to.
he wants to retire.
He wants to retire.
I think we're at a point now where Madison sort of knows what he doesn't know, and we sort of know what Madison's coming, offering or possibly offering. If you would like to have some direct conversation with me, Jenny can give you my contact information.
Mhm.
And maybe we should all just step back and think about possibilities and continue this conversation again later.
Yeah.
That would be good. I don't want to take up any more of your time. But and Jenny, thank you so very much for including me in this. That was very kind of you. Apologies for being late to jump on. But I feel I've fallen in love with your island. I've known a lot about Maine over the years. My college roommate has a family island off Tennant's Harbor that I've been going to since I was in college. But I was stumbling into Islesboro. I've just been stunned by the cast of characters I've crossed paths with. And I feel like there's an opportunity for me to do something in return. And I'm in a position to help. And I think it would be fun. And it would make me very happy to do what I can do in a small way that helps all of you achieve what you hope to on that island. So Jenny can pass along all of my contact information. Jenny, if you'll convey all of the names of the people that participated in this, and you guys continue to discuss and just tell me what to do. Tell me how to help.
Okay, well, we appreciate it.
Love you.
And, and it's nice to have somebody interested.
Yeah, thank you very much for being
Yes.
interested.
You're very welcome, and thank you for including me.
Okay,
You're welcome.
thanks.
Reference your funding question, one of the ones to look into is Maine Housing.
Mhm.
They're the ones that were doing the big grants for the low income, below income levels.
Perfect. Pull all of that together and then
I can do that. I have a website.
and we'll get started and this sounds like a lot of fun. I'm very excited.
Well, you can visit my website
Great,
this month.
thank you very much.
Thank
The
you.
one person.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Madison.
Bye.
Okay. Both
Bye.
of these are like
So,
housing mayor.
I kind of felt like he needed to come and just say what he needed to say and get to know him.
You just fall in love with him.
I know, but I also like, I don't think he needs to drop a bunch of money then realize he can't achieve his
Right.
goals.
right, well, I think part of what is gonna be the linchpin to getting this is what does he really see as his plan? I
Right.
mean, so is he looking to create rental property? Or is he looking to, to build and sell?
Right,
And I think, we articulate it, but I certainly feel that the build and sell is not gonna get the kinds of people that he's talking about.
Right. I do think that there's a good gateway to it though, because if IAP is going to start incentivizing those that are above the wages, I'm trying real hard to be politically correct here. They have some people that could certainly move past a low income housing. And,
Yeah.
so, but then if there are now these houses that are
Right.
being built, that if he's doing economically, that could be a really nice gateway for,
So if he's
To-
doing private
to do.
funding,
yeah,
he's not gonna be limited like IAP is.
Right.
So IAP has a lot of, for lack of a better word, a lot of covenants
Mhm.
that they have to live with because they have used grant money.
right,
But-
So if it's,
So not everything is grant money. That's the thing. It depends.
well, but
yeah,
if you have $10 out of 100 that's coming from main housing, you have to fund selling the house, but not the land, and then putting limits on how many, et cetera. It didn't work, and which is, I think, why
Hmm.
IAP is now pretty much, in the build and rent business, and it works better. So a private entrepreneur would not have to be constrained by that. And so, I mean, he could literally do a build with a rent to buy. And, pricing literally is market, as he would want it to be.
Mhm.
He would not be constrained on it, and so there's a lot more options to do, which is really why, what's his plan? What does he really
Well,
see?
I think he told, he's looking at these old historic,
Yeah.
in Rhode Island and Boston, they all had these big dormitories and,
Right.
And it's like, all right, man, well, that's great, but I don't know that fits here.
Yeah,
But he's excited to
Yeah,
design something.
well,
and he seemed ready to learn. He was gonna listen.
so, I mean,
appreciate
if,
that.
I don't know where he was, but the next time he's on the island,
He's here on and off.
if we could,
yeah, if he wants to call us,
we could
I'll
have
take
an
the
ad
top off
hoc
the Jeep and
meeting
take him around.
and go
Yeah.
sit and just throw stuff around with him. I mean,
I think that would be great,
Yeah.
because I think the other part of it that kind of gets sidelined, and it's a problem with IAP too, is there's no senior housing.
Mhm.
And so I think that if we had more of an opportunity, and I wish you would have stayed on for 30 more seconds. Yes, the 1 bedroom and the studio apartments, or the studio houses, the smaller ones, you would have a handful of our older population that would love to downsize into it, because then they give their house
Yeah,
to their kids who are trying to work here.
right. Right,
yeah.
no, I know,
Maybe here,
yeah,
but me, like, yes,
Mhm.
and then you have the ones that could benefit with having a neighbor a little bit closer. You know, they're still perfectly fine to live 100% on their own.
yeah,
Yeah, but the
So-
6 acres that
Yeah.
separates is a little bit of a concern.
right.
So, I mean, I actually think there would be a market for both of the smaller homes,
Right,
as I think he would have a market. I don't know if having 12 people is gonna,
Yeah.
in one facility is gonna do it, but I think that he would have people who would want
right.
that ability.
I think, I mean, that's what I mean. I think he's got like the passion and know-how to do something, he just doesn't, he needs some drive.
Yeah.
And when I'm representing a seller, I'm restricted on what I can say.
Right. Yeah.
That's why you have me.
I'm like, yeah, I want your money, let's go, let's sell this. That's in the best interest of my seller, but it may not be.
The other part of it, I think that is positive about that is that, you know, I mean, again, and I've said this multiple times, all our money goes off island. And so if you can attract more people and if you have workers that are staying here 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to the island market, they're going to Durkee's, I mean, they're spending some of their own money here.
Yeah,
Which is always a plus
I
plus
think it's
for
definitely, yeah.
the island. So,
All right, well, I'm gonna go home and eat supper now,
okay.
but I'd like for you to put me in touch with.
And so I emailed you and I didn't scroll down, so I just sent you all probably way more than I should have, but,
All right,
I will only look at the email addresses.
yeah, the email, yeah, I just emailed you
okay,
his designs, he had a whole pile of designs.
okay.
And I didn't realize how many other people he'd shared those with.
It's okay.
I have a little baby.
You have the most adorable.
Are you sending them to everybody?
I sent them to Melissa, Tom, and Mike so far.
You send
I'll,
me?
I'll forward it to you right now.
Maybe we should like, you know, I don't think you should just forward it.
No,
No, let's
Okay.
just take the email addresses, because we've all vowed that we're not gonna look at the
Okay.
email. We're only taking his contact.
I didn't even
information.
read, I was like, oh.
okay, all right.
fascinating
So it's not
stuff.
personal, Susan. We're all vowing to only take his email address, and I will take that chunk of the information and send it to you, okay?
Okay, that's a deal.
I got you.
He's just an open book, that guy.
I was thinking, after you said that, I was like, let's look. I'm like, whoa.
I think I looked at the attachments and I was like, then I was like, oh, there's some other stuff in here. I don't think any of it's bad.
No, you read the email.
So last thing we need to do is set up our next meeting. It is,
I love you all, but I'm not available till June anymore.
well, aren't you busy?
Look at I'm learning that I'm not available till June because I'm looking at the April calendar and I'm on.
Okay,
But then my kids picked up their graduation caps and gowns today, which is super
well,
stressful.
there's nothing that is other than this, and we could do this on a. ad
Oh, you
hoc
guys can do
basis.
this without me.
But we can also do this on an ad hoc based on his schedule.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
okay.
so let's look at June. How does June 12th, Thursday,
I'm out of town.
you're out of town.
I'm out of town that week and I'm out of town the week of I'm working. I could still, I don't want to do it. I couldn't do it the week of the 23rd also.
So how about the 19th?
19th,
What, the town office is closed.
I was gonna say it's not a holiday.
It's
Oh,
it's a holiday.
Juneteenth.
Holiday.
Fifth,
it's okay with me.
It doesn't have to be a Thursday.
I mean, the fifth, I could do the fifth, I could do the
so I can
16th.
do the fifth.
That'd be great.
Susan, fifth
Right now, I
work for
have no
you?
idea.
The sound is breaking. Did you say the 5th of June?
Yes,
June 5th.
Yes, I could do that.
okay,
Again, I'm
June
sorry if
5th.
you guys picked that because of me, because I was vocal.
Yep.
You guys
Oh,
don't need me
fine.
here. I like being here, but you don't need me.
No, it's great to have you.
Can we do it at 5:10? Because I've got a cemetery meeting at 4. But again, you don't need me.
Just
I
tell
need
me
to
to
stop
hop in
talking.
your bed.
Yeah,
it's
come
5
on.
o'clock and you'll be
5
here
o'clock,
when you get here.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right,
good. I move we adjourn.
Second.
Roll call.
Yes, yes,
yes, everybody.
Melissa,
Yes, ma'am.
can we talk?
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
Not now, but could we talk about the rents for the Schnorr cottages?
Yep, I was trying to read back through all of the
far.
emails. I've been helping take people to their health appointments.
No, she's fine.
And I keep
Okay.
thinking that I'm gonna have time to read it in between, and then I'm having to translate for doctors.
I know.
But
No,
yeah,
you don't have to read the whole thing. We can just talk if you want.
Michael's color,
Yes,
you know?
I would like that.
So that was Michael's
Okay.
hair, and it's starting to come in blonde underneath. Like, it's
I'm
fine, it's
gonna
wild.
email you my phone number.